Welcome back to my channel. The moment David Woolley opened his mouth in that Las Vegas restaurant, the entire room felt it. The carefully constructed script Kody Brown had rehearsed for weeks was shredded in an instant. Kody arrived armed with polished apologies, perfectly chosen words, and the kind of practiced charm designed to deflect scrutiny. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened next. 5 words. That was all it took. Start with your kids. It landed like a bomb at the dinner table, detonating every illusion Kody tried to project. The reaction on his face was immediate and unmistakable, an unguarded flicker of frustration, maybe even panic. For years, viewers had watched Kody position himself as the unshakable patriarch, the man whose authority in the family was never questioned. But in that single moment, the cracks in his carefully curated persona became painfully clear. This meeting was meant to be the second stop on Kody's apology tour, a strategic, choreographed journey meant to mend fences with his 3 ex-wives following the messy, high-stakes sale of the Coyote Pass property. First stop, Janelle, in North Carolina, had gone exactly as Kody envisioned. Janelle allowed him to speak, nodded politely, and let him leave with a sense of satisfaction. No drama.
No confrontation.
Christine, however, was a different story. She had moved on fully and visibly with her husband David. She was happy, confident, and unafraid to live her life outside Kody's orbit. Most would have assumed this meant a smooth encounter. But David Woolley was not the kind of man to sit silently while someone danced around the truth. As Kody delivered his rehearsed statements, vague apologies for past anger, regrets about their breakup, David leaned in, calm but assertive. He offered one simple piece of advice. Start with the children. Kody likely expected a supportive comment, maybe even a pat on the back. Instead, he was hit with a truth Kody had long avoided. The ex-wives were moving on, but his children were still hurting. The temperature in the room shifted instantly. Kody's composure cracked, his expression hardening as the words sank in. His voice rose, defensive and sharp. He was there to apologize to Christine, not to David, not to anyone else. Boundaries, he declared, had been set with his children, and now they extended to her husband and her, too. The message could not have been clearer. Do not bring on my children. I refuse to discuss them. What made this confrontation so unforgettable was not the anger itself, but the perspective David brought. Speaking as a father of 8, he admitted to his own struggles with reconnecting to his children. He wasn't attacking Kody. He was offering insight, guidance, and a reality check from someone who understood the work required to repair fractured family bonds. Kody, however, wanted none of it. To the cameras, he later insisted that even mentioning his children threw him into an angry place, undermining the very purpose of the meeting he had orchestrated. The irony was staggering. Kody had positioned himself as a man seeking reconciliation, yet the mere suggestion of addressing his own children sent him spiraling into defensiveness. And this, astonishingly, was just the beginning of what would unfold into one of the most tense, uncomfortable, and revealing moments in sister-wives history. Even before David spoke, the flaws in Kody's apology were already visible. From the instant he sat across from Christine and her husband, his performance felt off, forced, calculated, lacking genuine vulnerability. He came armed with a checklist of regrets, but his delivery betrayed him. Christine's discomfort was palpable, mirrored by viewers at home who cringed as they watched Kody mechanically run through his talking points. This was not a man seeking forgiveness. This was a man performing remorse. Each carefully chosen phrase, each measured pause, seemed less about healing old wounds and more about protecting his own image. He started by expressing regret for the anger he had displayed during their breakup, but the words rang hollow. For anyone watching closely, it was clear. Kody Brown's apology tour wasn't about reconciliation. It was about control, appearances, and the illusion of accountability. And yet, in that charged room, one voice cut through the performance and exposed the truth. David Woolley didn't yell.
He didn't attack.
He simply reminded Kody what had been missing all along. The children, the real heart of the family, deserved his attention first. Everything else, the scripted words, the rehearsed charm, crumbled in that instant. Kody's so-called journey of redemption had just collided with reality, and for the first time, the public got a glimpse of a man struggling to reconcile his image with the consequences of his actions. What unfolded that night would go down in Sister Wives history, not for apologies given, but for truths revealed and the uneasy tension that would linger long after the cameras stopped rolling. But then Kody veered into dangerous territory that made everyone in the room squirm. He began reminiscing about his past love for Christine, painting their marriage in exaggerated, almost poetic terms. He spoke of their time together as if it were a storm at sunset, a beautiful and unforgettable life experience. Flowery words, grandiose comparisons, completely tone-deaf, given that Christine's husband, David, was sitting right there, just inches away. Christine's reaction was instantaneous. Her eyes narrowed, disbelief etched across her face. "Why do you think any of that is appropriate?" she asked, her voice steady but sharp. Every viewer watching could feel the tension spike. The unspoken implication was clear. If Kody wanted to wax poetic about their former romance, where was Robin, his current wife, for a conversation like this? The question lingered in the air like a loaded accusation. Yet Kody seemed impervious to the discomfort he created. He pressed on with his meticulously rehearsed remarks, determined to check every item off his apology list, no matter how awkward it felt. He wanted to address old statements he had made, claims that he never loved Christine or his other ex-wives, explaining that those words had been born from anger and regret. But again, Christine's discomfort was palpable. Hearing Kody profess past love while her husband sat beside her was bizarre, unnecessary, and more than a little offensive. Watching this exchange was like watching someone completely miss the point of the assignment.
Christine had moved on.
She was thriving, not surviving. She had built a new life with David, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. The last thing she needed, or wanted, was Kody dredging up old romantic feelings, pretending nostalgia could somehow repair the past. That chapter in her life had closed long before David ever entered the picture. This scene perfectly illustrated the fundamental flaw in Kody's approach. His apology tour wasn't designed for those he sought to make amends with. It was built around him, his feelings, and his desire to be seen as the remorseful ex-husband. Every word, every pause, every carefully scripted declaration revolved around his need to atone, never stopping to ask whether Christine, or any of his ex-wives, actually wanted to hear it. Never once did he consider that his heartfelt confessions could reopen old wounds rather than provide closure. And then David spoke. What happened next is something no other person has managed to do in 20 seasons of Sister Wives. David Woolley leaned forward, looked Kody Brown directly in the eyes, and said what absolutely needed to be said. "Start with your kids." Kody, focused entirely on earning praise for apologizing to his ex-wives, suddenly had the spotlight turned on what really mattered. The women had moved on. They were happy. They had rebuilt their lives outside the wreckage of the plural marriage. But the children, the ones Kody had promised to protect and nurture, were still hurting, still waiting, still longing for a father who refused to fully show up. David delivered his words with calm authority. He asked permission before offering his advice, approaching the moment with respect rather than hostility. As a father of 8, he spoke from experience. He admitted his own struggles reconnecting with his children over the years, the arguments, the misunderstandings, but also the eventual breakthroughs. This wasn't a lecture from an outsider. It was wisdom earned from blood, tears, and experience, shared with the hope that Kody could finally see what really needed fixing. And the advice itself, simple, direct, undeniable, cut through all the posturing, all the rehearsed charm, and all the empty apologies. Start with your kids. David Woolley didn't mince words. He made it crystal clear. Your ex-wives have healed and moved on, but your children haven't. These are the ones who still need their father to show up, to be present, to acknowledge the impact of his absence. David witnesses it every day. He spends time with the kids during family gatherings, sees firsthand the confusion, the hurt, and the lingering questions that come when a father chooses arrangement over effort. The pain left behind by Kody's absence is visible, palpable, and impossible to ignore. And Kody's response? It spoke volumes about his character. Instead of listening, reflecting, or even quietly considering David's words, he went immediately on the defensive. Sharp. Defensive. Closed off. Kody snapped that he didn't care what David thought. His only mission, he claimed, was to apologize to Christine, period. No one else. Not David. Not the children. Not the truth. He went further, laying down boundaries like a wall. The limits he had already imposed on his own children would now extend to David and Christine as well. The unspoken translation was chillingly clear. Don't talk about my kids. I refuse to address it, and nothing you say will change that. In his confessional afterward, Kody revealed the deeper truth behind his anger. Being reminded of his estranged children, he admitted, would throw him into a place of frustration and resentment. The very existence of these broken relationships was, to him, a nuisance, a disruption he preferred to ignore rather than face. Even more telling, Kody dismissed David's perspective entirely. He accused him of not understanding polygamy, brushing aside the fact that David had grown up adjacent to the plural marriage lifestyle, surrounded by family members who lived it. Experience, insight, and genuine concern. None of it mattered to Kody. What mattered was protecting his ego, his image, and his carefully controlled narrative. Fans watching at home erupted. Social media exploded with praise for David's boldness, with comment sections filled with viewers cheering him for finally holding Kody accountable, directly, to his face. One fan pointed out the obvious. David has earned the right to speak up because he is the day-to-day father figure for Christine's children. Another added, bluntly, that David is 100 times the father Kody will ever be. For once, someone had spoken the truth, and Kody's reaction proved exactly why it needed to be said. Kody Brown loves to talk about boundaries. He wields the word like a shield, deploying it whenever someone threatens to expose his failures. But the boundary he described during this episode had nothing to do with healthy relationship dynamics or protecting his mental health. No, this boundary exists for one reason, and one reason only: to avoid any conversation about why he has abandoned the majority of his 18 children. When David suggested Kody start with his kids, Kody immediately retreated behind his familiar defense mechanism. He announced that he had already set boundaries with his children and would now extend those boundaries to David and Christine. In Kody's mind, this declaration should have ended the discussion. He drew a line and expected everyone else to respect it, no questions asked. But boundaries are meant to protect people from harm, not shield someone from the truth about their own parenting failures. Kody's version, however, frames his estrangement as something that happened to him, rather than something he caused. For years, he's played the victim. Christine turned his kids against him, he claims. Janelle is responsible for the distance between him and her sons. He acts as if his adult children are incapable of seeing reality for themselves, incapable of forming independent opinions about their father. But Kody's children have made their perspectives abundantly clear. Gabriel Brown explained that Kody demanded an apology from him, without ever clarifying what Gabriel had supposedly done wrong. When Gabriel asked for accountability from his father and a chance to rebuild a real relationship, Kody simply declared he forgave Gabriel and demanded forgiveness in return. Gabriel was left confused, wondering what exactly he was supposed to apologize for. Leon Brown was even more blunt. On social media, he called his father a liar and a joke of a dad. He revealed that Kody had not reached out since Garrison's funeral, blatantly ignoring his own children on one of the most devastating days of their lives. The boundary Kody described is, in reality, just avoidance dressed up in therapy jargon. Somewhere along the way, he picked up the right words, probably from internet research on parenting, boundaries, and triangulation, but words alone don't equate to understanding. A real, healthy boundary would mean saying, I need time to process my emotions before having difficult conversations. What Kody actually means is, nobody should ever mention my children because I refuse to take responsibility for this estrangement. David saw straight through the deflection. He pushed back because he understands what Christine's children truly need from their father. He sees them navigate the confusion, disappointment, and hurt of having a dad who prioritizes pride over presence, who puts ego before relationships. When Kody tried to hide behind his so-called boundary, David didn't back down because he knows the children cannot wait while Kody runs from accountability. Meanwhile, across the state in Flagstaff, Robin Brown was playing a very different role. She was back at home, offering relationship advice to her adult daughter, Aurora. The scene was crafted to highlight Robin as a nurturing mother, baking cookies with her 22-year-old while dispensing wisdom about love, independence, and growing into adulthood. The contrast between the two households could not have been more stark. One father deflecting responsibility and running from his children, the other mother showing up fully and modeling what real care and guidance look like. But then one piece of advice sent viewers spitting out their coffee and flooding social media with disbelief. Robin Brown, in all seriousness, looked at her daughter Aurora and said, "A man is not a financial plan." The irony was so thick it could be sliced with a knife. Here was Robin Brown, a woman who entered the Brown family carrying around $32,000 in credit card debt, lecturing her daughter about financial independence. Robin has never held a traditional job during her time on Sister Wives. Her main occupation has been filming the reality show while living as a stay-at-home mother with a stay-at-home husband. The family jewelry business she helped launch, My Sister Wife's Closet, failed spectacularly despite the built-in publicity from the show. Fans immediately called out the hypocrisy. Comments poured in questioning Robin's so-called financial independence. When she married into the Brown family, it was reportedly Janelle's liquidated retirement funds that helped pay off Robin's debt. Other wives sacrificed their own financial security to welcome Robin into the plural marriage. And now, she sits in a $2.1 million Flagstaff home dishing out advice about not relying on men. The conversation with Aurora centered on her boyfriend, Brody, who is about to graduate from military basic training. Robin urged her daughter to experience life on her own before settling down, a message that would have been commendable from almost any other mother. But Robin's actions over the years have consistently contradicted this advice. She has spent years ensuring her children remain close to home, purchasing a massive house in Flagstaff seemingly designed to keep everyone under one roof indefinitely. Fans watching couldn't help but notice the lack of self-awareness. Robin speaks as though she built her life through independent hustle and careful planning, when in reality, she benefited enormously from the sacrifices of Mary, Janelle, and Christine during the early years of the Brown family's rise. Those women worked jobs, contributed income, and built the foundation that allowed the Brown family to survive and eventually thrive on camera. Telling Aurora that a man is not a financial plan might be solid advice in theory. Young women should absolutely develop their own careers and independence before committing to a partner. But coming from Robin Brown, it felt like someone who has never run a marathon telling others how to sprint properly. The messenger completely undermined the message, and fans were not about to let it slide. Meanwhile, David Woolley's advice to Kody, "Start with the kids," struck a nerve because everyone watching knows the devastating truth about Kody's relationships with his children. This isn't a minor disagreement with a teenager or two. This is near total estrangement affecting almost all 18 of his kids. Janelle has publicly stated Kody is alienated from 90 to 95% of his children. Let that sink in. A man whose brand is built on family values has lost connection with nearly every child he fathered. The evidence is overwhelming. Leon Brown blasted his father on Instagram, calling him a liar and a joke of a father. He revealed Kody had not reached out since Garrison's funeral and had even blatantly ignored them on that devastating day. Gabriel Brown shared his own heartbreak, describing how his father demanded apologies without ever specifying what Gabriel had done wrong. When Gabriel insisted Kody take accountability and show readiness for a real relationship, Kody bizarrely claimed he forgave Gabriel and demanded forgiveness in return, leaving his son utterly confused. Janelle's daughter Madison has not spoken to Kody in 2 to 3 years. Peyton Brown confirmed he has had no contact since Garrison's funeral, citing an event during the service that further strained the already fragile relationship. Multiple Brown children allude to drama involving Kody and Robin at the funeral, though none have fully detailed it publicly. The pattern is unmistakable: A father demanding loyalty while avoiding accountability, expecting apologies without acknowledging his own failures, and setting boundaries that conveniently excuse him from doing the hard work to repair relationships. Kody can dismiss David Woolley's advice all he wants. He can claim triangulation or outside influence turned his children against him. But when this many kids from different mothers share nearly identical stories of abandonment and disappointment, the common denominator becomes painfully obvious. The morning after the disastrous dinner, Christine had a plan to salvage something positive. She suggested they all head to Speed Vegas, a racing venue where they could drive high-performance cars around a professional track. The idea was simple but deliberate. Instead of sitting across from each other rehashing old wounds, maybe doing something exciting together could show that coexistence, and perhaps even reconciliation, was actually possible. Christine wanted her children to see that spending time with their father didn't have to be painful. From a mother's perspective, it made perfect sense. She explained that when she returned home, she wanted to tell her kids it had been awesome hanging out with their dad. They needed to see that interacting with Kody could actually be fun, even enjoyable. Christine understood that relationships with their father could never improve if every encounter remained filled with tension and awkward confrontations. Sometimes you have to model the behavior you hope others will adopt. But even during what should have been a lighthearted activity, Kody couldn't resist being himself. As Christine took her turn on the track, he offered critique instead of encouragement, pointing out every small mistake, every technique she supposedly failed to execute. Kody cannot experience a moment without positioning himself as superior. Even go-kart racing becomes a stage for him to prove dominance. When everyone finished their runs, Kody emerged as the fastest driver, beating Christine by roughly half a second. The margin barely mattered, but the satisfaction on his face told the story. To him, every victory, no matter how trivial, is validation. This is who Kody is at his core. Every interaction is a chance to assert control rather than connect meaningfully with those around him. Christine tried to frame the outing positively. She expressed openness to future group activities and hinted at more hangouts down the road. Part of this was practical. Sister wives needs content, and estranged family members who refuse to interact provide limited storytelling opportunities. But she also genuinely seemed to want peace for the sake of her children. The racing ended without major incident, a win in this family's world. Nobody stormed off, nobody yelled, nobody cried. They drove, exchanged surface-level pleasantries, and went their separate ways. Yet the fundamental issues remained. Kody still refused to discuss his children, Christine remained skeptical of his intentions, and David Woolley knew, beyond a doubt, that what he had said at dinner was the truth.